Hi everyone, welcome to the first ever Directors Roundtable. Today, we have gathered 5 senior filmmakers together to talk about how they got started, what made them interested in directing, and most importantly, how they balance being a filmmaker and a student at the same time. I'm really excited, and I just want to say thank you all for joining me today. Starting with you, Ryan. Do you want to give your name, an introduction, and tell us about your film?
Yeah, my name is Ryan Manuud. I'm from New York. I lost my voice over the weekend, so I'm trying to recover, but I'm the writer and director of a book about science, and that's a story about, coming-of-age story about Arthur, who is a college senior trying to finish his thesis, and also navigating a life of traumas and triumphs. And he meets Ashley, and an unlikely companion, and then they navigate it together.
That sounds really interesting.
Yeah, and then, hi, my name's Abby Tarpey. I'm a senior film major with a minor in photography. I'm from Altoona, so I'm local to State College, but I'm directing a film called Frail Grounds. Frail Grounds is a narrative short that follows our main character, Margot. She wakes up in a place very unfamiliar to herself. We wanted to focus on kind of like creativity and creating like an artistic world. Her older brother comes up and starts talking to her, takes her back to her older sister, who then asks, "So how did you die?" Which would obviously give you a pretty big reaction, and sends Margot on a journey of finding the answer to that question, along with building a better relationship with her siblings along the way.
How's it going? I'm Ryan McNeil. I'm a fourth-year film production major with an English minor, and I'm the co-writer and director of Independent, another coming-of-age movie about Mark, a 25-year-old man who, in the week before his 26th birthday, learns he's going to lose his parents' health insurance. The fear and uncertainty from this leads him back home to, first and foremost, figure out his health insurance, but in the process, try to reclaim the childhood that he thinks that he ran right past in growing up.
Okay, I'm Sara Usnick. I'm working on a film about 3 childhood friends who have played hockey together throughout their lives, and then they went to different universities, and then they are back at Penn State together for their last season playing together. So.
Cool. My name's Cody. I'm a senior film production major with a deafness and hearing studies minor. So yeah, the film I'm working on is called A Box of Matches. I'm the writer-director of it. Essentially, it follows this couple. They're about to get married. However, the guy in the relationship, he hasn't been loyal to his fiancée. He gets into an affair with another woman. So ultimately, this other woman who he's seeing on the side has been working against him with this cult-like group of people who then sacrifices him in the end. So, yeah.
You've all picked really thought out ideas, even with the documentary, you found the story in that, which is really awesome. First question, this is open to anyone. When did you know that you wanted to be a director?
Something on my end might be a little different was, I don't know if I've ever told you this, but I was a childhood actor, so I got to do a lot of fun projects and never got a big break, I did get cast in Independent, Mr. McNeil's film over here, so my comeback is there, but I started out kind of acting in minor pieces of work, and I always wanted more. I wanted a bigger role, and then that led to me maybe I could pull a Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, Good Will Hunting type thing in high school and make my own roles. And then as I was doing it, I really just fell in love with being behind the camera. Kind of a weird thing. It was a weird way to navigate through it, but I'm here now.
That's kind of how I am. I think I differ from the group. I'm not sure about Sarah, where I think I'm the only person who really dislikes writing. Frail Grounds was the only thing I'm a co-creator of. I came up with the story, but then handed it off to get the script actually written and like changed and made so much better than my little rambles of things. But with directing, I started with doc, and then I was in comm agency, which is like an org here. Manuud's the student director. I'm the production exec. A lot of people work in it. And with that was my first time directing, and I like fell in love with that. And all of the reasons I got into film were like the art of film, I feel like, and kind of like all the different elements you piece together. So it made sense to direct in the sense of like you're kind of leading the artistic vision, which is what I enjoy. I just never set out going like, oh, I'll direct my own movies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I found that directing, it at first just worked out of like, well, who's going to be the director in the project? And I'm like, okay, I guess. And that was like junior year, which, I mean, heck, I'm barely a year removed from that now, but it's something I've found that's just healing. I think in writing these stories and directing them, especially this year-long project, it's something that I'm going through with the characters. And as I'm directing this, I'm exploring these things like within myself. And I think making sense of those and going through this story, going through the process with the cast and the crew, and I guess being a director on a project like that has proven to be something that is helping me to like grow as a person in both like my skills as a director and just understanding myself. And I think it's so fun and so rewarding.
Moving a little bit into production, unless anyone wanted to add to that question. When you're on set, do you find that you have to bring like a different personality, a different person to set to wear that director's hat?
It's interesting because yes, I think it overall boils down to what you're filming. Like, what is the scene that you need to have? There's a scene in a book about science where we talk about domestic abuse, and that's a set that normally I'm a pretty upbeat, happy person. That's not one that I could come in and start cracking jokes. You know, I need to earn everyone's trust about the importance of the themes that we're dealing with. However, when we're filming a dance sequence, when he's, partying in his room by himself, that's when you're playing that music and you let that cap for say changes. I think it just depends what you're dealing with, what is the story of that day that you're trying to do. And always professional, no matter what.
Always professional is true. I think that you can never break stressful situations, emotional situations, whether in front of the camera or behind it. It is a matter of knowing yourself well enough to know that, like, I need a minute to figure this out, or I need to just talk to the actors. Like, let's just clear the room. Like you said, with heavy emotional stuff, it's a matter of just boiling it down to talking to the individuals, and like, we're all people in this, and sometimes we make our actors do challenging things, like when I make Ryan Manuud here throw up on camera. Fake.
I would method, actually. That was a full method acting.
And I think it's something where they have to trust you as people, and that's definitely what you bring to set. And sometimes it is all fun, it is all easygoing, and I mean, those can be the best or easiest days on set, or those can be hard. And I think it's unpredictable, but as long as you come in with that like confidence and just lead with that, then it works itself out.
It's interesting what you guys say about trust, because that's a big thing when in doc, at least. If you want to make people open up to you and like tell you the whole story, you have to get them to trust you first. Like, for this film, we went to Canada and visited their families, and they invited us into their homes. So we had to, like, be on our best behavior and everything. So, like,
Can I ask what you do to, like, build that trust for doc?
Yeah, I was thinking, like, okay, first of all, people love the slate. If you're going to do doc, bring the slate. Because people, they took, like, family pictures with that, holiday 2023, bring the slate. And just, like, being confident in, like, what you're doing, because, like, if you look like you don't know what you're doing, they're going to be like, like, what are you doing here? So that's like a big thing. And just making sure that like everyone knows what they're doing at all times, and just having things organized to the point where like if you're like, oh, I need this, you know exactly where it is, especially like because we can't like go back and get more footage. Like we can't redo an interview. So we have to make sure that like everything in the moment is right. So you have to be like, you kind of have to be like cracking jokes, like making people comfortable, but also like locked in. Like you have to lock in, but also like be out there with yourself. So I think that's like a big part of what we did for our film.
That's something I've struggled with documentary, is like having to lock in and focus on getting everything set up correctly while also talking to the subjects, making them feel comfortable.
It's hard.
It's tough.
It's
yeah.
hard. It's like, oh,
Kudos.
wow. Like, you know, Merry Christmas. What are you guys doing for Christmas break? Oh, by the way, can you set up that light over there? Like it's hard. It's hard. Like, yeah.
You bring up an interesting point about dealing with those spontaneous situations that come up and pivoting. And I'm wondering if anyone has any like examples of like, you know, the biggest pivot that they had to take, and did it have a happy ending?
Oh yeah. We just wrapped production recently, and one of our big our finale shoot, our very last scene, was going to be returning to this location we had shot at in like our second day, months ago. I learned the day before the shoot that we lost the location, we didn't have it, and we couldn't get in. At first, panic mode, I'm like, how do I even tell the crew? Like, what do I do? Oh no. And I pull up the script and I look at like, how can we change this? Because we're not gonna fake it. It was that we had been in the living room of our main character's house. We had been in the living room, we had been in the basement, we had seen the kitchen that we were going to be filming in. And I was like, can't do it. We can't fake that. We can't come into a studio and make that work. So same day I rewrote it. I had found like shots that we had wanted to incorporate, but we couldn't find a place to fit. And it was a better scene for it. I think the pivot was something that those 2 days of learning that, rewriting, getting on set, shooting it, terrifying. Not to the actors, as I said, of course, everything's under control. But it was something that I think came out all for the better. And I think that those problems are always interesting when they come up, and the pivot is like a much greener grass on the other side.
I think that in terms of pivoting for a book about science I wrote this in my sophomore year of college, and it was 45 pages, way too long. And I felt like it was therapeutic enough for me to finish the script and put that away. And then I was approached about yearlong, and we didn't have a story. And I, dusted it off and went through it, and it was like, this is horrible. This is a terrible script. And, a lot of my pivots were in that pre-production phase, rewriting it and bringing it down to 20 pages, cut it less than half. And I think that's a good message, which is say less. I think that assume your audiences are smart, and, don't ever over-explain things that don't have to be over-explained, It's kind of like show, don't tell, and I think in any piece of art, you have to, be very subtle with everything you do, which helped the rewrite, You trim it down. But yeah, that's pivoting during the actual production. I don't know about you guys, but I think that if you're prepared, if you fully, think in advance and you get your game plan in, pivoting happens, and you have to do it here and there, You lose a location, things like that happen, but I found that this project especially, we've, grinded out and, proper preparation prevents poor performance. Let's rock with that every time we get on set.
Plan A,
And
Plan B, Plan C.
you have all of them. We go through the whole alphabet down to Plan Z. But yeah.
I can't think of an exact example of a time that a box of matches has had to pivot so dramatically. I'm sure we have. But it sounds like what everybody's saying is like pivoting can sometimes, be a really detrimental thing. But it sounds like what with your pivots it sounds like it really like proved your artistry in a way, and then it really brought the best out of people because you understood that, oh man, we're crunch time now, like we might not have as much time to film this scene because the location is taking 2 hours away from us instead of, the full 6, whatever. So it seems like pivoting in general is just really, really good to put your skills to the test, and really apply yourself as much as possible in that short, sort of, one-day decision-making process you might have before the shoot. So kudos to you guys.
I will say, like, pre-production, we were originally going to do our film on, like, transfers. But then, like, we did some digging. And, like, we noticed that 2 of the 3 transfers played hockey together in, like, the same program. So, like, oh, we'll just do it on that. And then we found out that the captain also played hockey with them. So then we did that. So, like, that, we kind of, like, pivoted a little bit in that way, so.
With all of your projects, whether it's documentary or whether it is scripted, it's really like the project is alive in that it changes and it grows, hopefully grows alongside all of you as you're making this. Speaking of growing as a person, because you are all students, you're all young adults, how do you find that balance between being a filmmaker, making your project, and having a life, really?
How do I balance that? I don't know. It's easier. Okay, it's easier when like the hockey season is over, personally, because I was at every single home game, like Saturdays and Fridays, anywhere from like it could start at like 2 p.m. or 3 p.m. So I was like in the middle of the day, just going like back and forward. So like, I don't know, it's a lot of planning. Like you have to plan out your life. You have to plan out. There are times that I'd be like, this meeting ran over by 10 minutes. My whole day is ruined. Like, I don't know. For me, it was like a lot of planning and just doing things that I gotta do.
With the planning, the shoots come first.
Yeah.
I get my actors' times that they're available, and then if I had a meeting, if I had a class, and like I gotta make it work, I'll be there. And I think that the film being a capstone, being so large, it was that the actors, the talent can be there, okay. Like, we gotta make it work however we can. And I think balancing it is a matter of, again, just prep planning. And we would try to get dates on the books as early as possible, and then I know how much time I have, and I think that it worked out that I could still enjoy my senior year outside of the film. Yeah, even though it was extremely busy.
I would also argue that balance is just like what you want it to be, where if you set out and you create a crew that's a little more chill, a little more relaxed, you'll have more time outside of that. You do have to plan it well, but you'll have it more, it'll function better, versus if you personally like commit to wanting to put so much into it that other things kind of lose. Like, that's just a personal decision. I know for Frail Grounds, I got a concussion in the fall, and I got a concussion, went to the ER the next day, and did a table read when I left the ER. Like, that was a personal thing because I wanted to see the actors read it. Don't know if that was the best decision for my health.
We made it.
We made it. I'm alive.
Sort of, kind of.
So your advice to younger students is sacrifice everything at all costs.
It's my advice would be to decide what level you are committed to and what you are comfortable with, and then just stick to that. So it's like, I also knew when I had my limits of like, I cannot do this, and that's when you ask your crew for help. But like, if you set out for something, as long as you like know what your goals are, everything will work out with how to balance your day and how to figure out what you can do and when.
So, what I try and do for myself, I don't know about everybody else, but I like to tell myself that it is also okay to have downtime. because I know we're all so busy, constantly, You're constantly running around doing things, so many different things. You know, we're all involved in different organizations, so it's really easy to get caught up in, okay, I have to. You just gotta lock in for whatever. But it's good. It's been beneficial for me to also then remind myself, like, okay, I can take an hour break out of my day to take time for myself, so that I'm not burning out by 7 p.m. when I have a meeting, since that's when everybody's free, whatever. It's been really important to just allow yourself downtime, It's easy to get caught up. So just taking time out of your day and just doing a check-in with yourself is really beneficial, at least for me, that's how I've.
Yeah. I mean, you took a different approach from everyone, but it also blending a little bit about what Abby said, choosing what your comfort level is. It sounds like that is important for everyone, and you know you the best, right? So at the end of the day, as long as you're being yourself, I think you can't go wrong, hopefully.
Yeah.
Well, to not put Cody too far out on the island of chilling. I feel like even if you're go, you probably still have highs and lows of yes, we would have a 8-10 hour set, but then going back with this shoot, me and Andrew, who's editing it, would go through footage review, and it's that's not chilling away from the film, but that's chilling and going through everything that was filmed, doing all of the notes, cleaning everything up, but then also just
slowing down.
Yeah, and talking through how the shoot went, reviewing it with Core right after, and just being how did this go? How to improve? So it's still work, but it's not on the go, fast paced.
Mm-hmm.
Abby, you brought up something interesting. I'm wondering, is there, for each of you, what was your favorite part, including pre-production, production, post? What was the thing you always looked forward to? And what was your least favorite part?
I think that every stage, with pre-production into principal, into post-production, they all have their happy ending. And I kind of look at it as 3 different projects. A lot of the time, I write things and it stays in pre-production because I feel completed. I felt like I felt a full circle after finishing it. That's what it was with Book About Science. And then we go so many years later to then actually greenlight it to be filmed. I think there's always something to look forward to, and there's always work to be done.
I think the coming to life ties together both what I love the most and what I dread. Sometimes, especially in the early stages when I haven't fleshed out my dialogue or these beats, hearing it aloud, I'm like, oh my gosh, oh no. And I definitely dread that, but at the same time, getting cast and putting voices to this again, and the characters that started as just Mark and David becoming Caden and Justin and being real and seeing that, I think is what I look forward to the most. And every day on set, this scene that I have had in my head for months or maybe a day in some cases, to see it play out in ways, with Manuud acting in my film, I had this character and this scene written for about 6 months. And I had been cast with him for so long that I'm just thinking how he's going to take it, how he's going to play it. We get on set and he still blows me away. And it's not what I expected at all. And it's every time for the better. And I think it's so interesting to see how, I really do look forward to seeing how the final product or even the day on set differs from the movie in my head. I think that's always very exciting.
That's a cool point, because I had just heard this quote that Greta Gerwig said. It's when she creates a character and then she casts someone for that character, she uses a metaphor of a flame. And she says, I'm giving this to you now. It's no longer mine. It belongs to you as an actor. And it's cool to see it's almost like a documentary. Now you're watching, you're letting the story happen, and giving opportunity to shed light on something that you might, as the writer, not have remembered or not have even thought of. I think directing, thinking from the actor perspective is very important. I think that was the most beneficial thing to do with a book about science.
I think you put it really perfectly too, Ryan, whenever you were explaining like each sector is kind of its own project in a way, because all of like my favorite moments, I don't, like whenever someone's like, what's your favorite part of the film? I don't know how to tell you that, because there's so many different like minute things of like holding what was the final shooting script is something like I'll never forget, but I know we're still in post, but like seeing the final rough cut for Playing God, the previous thesis that I did, like seeing that rough cut, I'll never forget it, because it's like 3 months of filming, and like something that I've been working on for 8 months was just like handed to me to see.
It's all in your head, and then it's real.
And then it exists.
Oh my gosh.
So like, and whenever you're on set, certain scenes where you might have imagined it a certain way, whether it's coming to life in a way you couldn't have expected, or it's coming to life like exactly how you've pictured it for so long, there's like a life breathed into like your idea, and it's something you can't explain.
I think that's the feeling I'm obsessed with of like making films. Just the fact that I play these movies in my head and these things that I'm writing, and then it's real, and then it's given to me by a team of people that, you know, put all of their blood, sweat, and tears and this like love into the project, and now it's a film, and now it's something that other people are going to see, and I could like communicate all of that is so cool.
And like, before you even see the rough cut, though, I feel like going on set, you can have that experience too. Because our last full shoot day was a funeral, so Will Johnson had built us a coffin, and we put it in the church. And it's like seeing all of Jace's footage was amazing of like how it translates to screen, but even just standing in the church and seeing like all of our extras for our ensemble and like the actress inside of it, like it was a very serious but like real feeling whenever that idea came about last December. So over a year away of being able to like stand in the room of the film. It was cool.
The locations are so cool with that, because it's like, if it's close or completely different than what you imagined, standing in it and being like, this isn't like, you know, insert the bowling alley name here, this isn't this bowling alley, like this is the one in Mark's hometown that we're visiting, and to like think of it in that regard, I love it.
Oh, I was thinking. Well, I mean, there's only so much you can do with pre-production for us. So I like, obviously, like, writing the questions is really fun. I would say like those first interviews, or like when you're getting to know them, just have like the basic questions. That was like, it was just really satisfying, like seeing everything build on each other, because they would like start referencing things that the other ones had said. You know, at that point that we were all interviewing them individually, they started referencing each other, and, like talking about like the same things, and then we would ask like follow-up questions about something somebody else had mentioned. They'd be like, whoa, they said that, like I didn't even remember that, like, so that it was cool, like, how can I say this? It was like where we were like, I don't know. It was just like it was really cool just to like get to know them on that level, and their families, and just like we were just always learning more about them from other people. So I guess like production is, I guess, the favorite part of it. Just like everything with ours.
Cody, did you have that, because you were a little bit involved in writing and then directing, did you have the experiences that like Ryan and Abby and Ryan and Sarah were talking about, where, you know, being on set, being production, suddenly it was real for you, and the things that you could have only imagined on paper are suddenly coming to life. Did you have that experience?
Yeah, I definitely did. It was a lot more subconscious, I think, for me, just because I'm anxious. You know, so like on set, I'm always like, oh my God, something's gonna, happen. But I mean, thankfully it never did, because we had such an incredible team to then assemble everything, every piece that I might have overlooked, someone else, may then may have swooped in. Oh, wow. May have swept in. Thank you. Yeah, and helped out in some form or fashion. So looking back now, yeah, like I was talking with Ethan Berman, the producer, and we were both like, man, it's crazy that because we've just wrapped this past Monday, wrapped production. So like, man, it's crazy that we're done filming our senior project. Like it was a very real moment from it starting out, on the script, constantly working on it, grinding away, literal blood, sweat, and tears, put into this project, and then having, all this footage that we've collected over months and months and months. And now it's time to like put it all together and actually fully develop the story, and just figure out the realness of the story we want to tell. It was very that was where I think it was the most real. It was actually then rapping and him bringing it up to me. I didn't even think about that, but I was like, man, this is really cool that we started out physical paper. It wasn't even my idea. It was like my girlfriend's idea, where I'm like, oh my god, that's awesome. So shout out Katie Branscombe. She's a G for that. Yeah, but it's awesome to hear. Just it was a normal conversation. We didn't even think about this was like fall two semesters ago. Our junior year fall. I hadn't even thought about the year-long class yet. We were just talking about like, oh, what a cool movie idea would be. She threw that out there, and I was like, oh, there's something there, So it's really cool to then just see it all unfold, in front of our eyes. So.
Talking about Penn State and moving into our last question, now that all of you have like wrapped with an asterisk, wrapped, if walking away from your projects, walking away from Penn State, if you were only allowed to take one piece of information that you learned this year, or one bit of advice that you got, you're only allowed to keep one thing and you forget the rest of it, what would that one thing be?
I said mine earlier today, which was proper preparation prevents poor performance. I think that works, especially on a film set, but in general, if you have a game plan and you're prepared from plan A to plan Z, the biggest thing I learned is be ready for every curveball that's going to come your way and have a plan for it.
I think for me, it's just the curiosity that the film major gave me, and that so many different steps along the way have reinforced this idea that I don't know everything, and other people do, and I can learn it in this way. And like directing this project, but then going and getting on sophomore sets as a gaffer, or over spring break, I traveled to Grip. I had never gripped before. It was this whole big production. It was so fun. And I think that going into an industry that is definitely intimidating and there's a lot of uncertainty, I want to just take that curiosity with the idea that I'm not going to graduate and then the next day get this money to direct a film. I'm going to PA. I'm going to be some second unit, like fourth grip hand. I'm going to be so far down the totem pole, but just the mindset of continuing to learn and just going through things, trying to take all this information from whoever will do it. Like you said, people just want to talk about themselves, and just having those conversations, learning more, and growing as like a well-rounded filmmaker and person in the industry, I think is what I feel confident about, like going into this intimidating industry.
I'd say if I had to walk away with anything, it'd just be like the ability to like think on my feet and improvise. Like there's like a lot of that this year. Like not just with this project, but like other projects too, but like it helps a lot. Like no matter what situation you're in. Like I feel like even with like a scripted thing, it's like things go wrong, so you gotta be ready for that. Like mentally. So
Put you on the spot.
I would probably say listen, which sounds cheesy, but coming from my first time directing being doc, with that you're purely listening to other people and you're learning the environment and what story exists in it. And then I carried that over to narrative, and so listening to your actors, to your crew, but also to like the story that's coming through, but also yourself. Building confidence is probably like the biggest thing that I worked on over the past 2 years of directing, and making sure that not only everyone else can trust me, but that I can trust myself was really important. I know that when I finished directing Jodie Norton's Playing God, I don't know if you guys even remember this, but me, Ryan Manuud, and Ryan McNeil, I put in it the wrong one. Me, Ryan Manuud, and Ryan McNeil were standing in a circle right as like everyone was about to leave, just talking, and Ryan said, like, this is gonna be us next year. And then you looked at me and were like, well, you already did it once, and then just walked away laughing. Which doesn't sound like it would stick, but something about that, like just hearing that from someone else reminded me like, oh, I have directed a 30-minute project before, and like settled a lot of the anxieties I had of trying to do it again, where it was like, okay, I have done it once. I never thought about that.
I got you.
And just hearing something like that from someone else, because inherently, like, this is a very narcissistic role in a way. You're putting your name at the top. You are telling people what you want the vision to be. You need to be able to, like, settle yourself back and hear from others and put your trust in, like, I would never question a majority of my core crew because I know they should have a reason. I just have to ask the reason. And so just listening to what people say.
I think you're hitting it right on the nail. We are stepping into a, ego-filled role, like at least a stereotype of that. And I think my biggest takeaway is like, it's not about you. It's not about the director, the producer, any member of the crew, DP, AD, whoever, even the grip, they don't matter, I mean, of course they matter, but in the sense I'm talking about, you're all doing this for the audience. You're doing it for them to take them on a journey so that they can, escape the realities that is, the woe that is life or whatever. You're transporting them into these worlds with awesome characters. So I think understanding that much can take you a really long way because you're doing it for them. You're doing everything for them. You're listening to your crew, so that they feel heard, and they feel like I'm putting in, they're so that they feel good, exactly. It's so everybody can feel good, and walk out of a theater at the end of the day being like, oh man, that was really cool, and I think it absolutely starts with the crew, making sure everybody feels heard and feels welcome, yeah.
I think that the year-long course and making a film as a film student is an incredibly powerful thing, and I don't think that there is a single other thing that compares to it. With that, I'm going to wrap it up. I want to thank you all again for sharing your wisdom, because there are younger students and aspiring filmmakers, directors who will look up to you. If they're not already looking up to you, they will look up to you, because I know that there are people that want to follow your path. So thank you all for joining me today and for talking about this.
Thanks for having us. Yeah.
Thank you, Chet.
That was Directors Roundtable.
That was Directors Roundtable.